everyone, it's time for Rapid Fire Comic Reviews. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Jayson.
Jayson, are you going to help me out with the show this week?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, you tried to steal my show last week, but you did such a good job that I guess I'll let you help out again. Yeah. I want to say thanks as always to Elite Comics in Overland Park, Kansas for helping us out with the show. If you're ever in the Kansas City area, check out Elite Comics. It is a fantastic store. Jayson, this weekend we were in Iowa. We were in Ames, Iowa. And do you remember what comic shop we went to? Do you remember what it was called?
No.
It was Mayhem.
Mayhem.
Yeah, you remember Mayhem?
And at Mayhem, we did get a Catwoman.
Oh, did we get a Catwoman action figure from Batman 66?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have all those now, except for Surf's Up Batman. We still got to get that one. Yep. So we were in Ames, Iowa this weekend. We were visiting some family, and I stopped in once again at Mayhem, which is one of the stores that is featured in the Midwestern Panels, the documentary that we're making that's going to come out around Christmas this year. And Jayson finally got to see that store, and that was a whole lot of fun. Yeah, and so anyway, that's why our show this week is coming out so late, and it's Tuesday, tomorrow's Wednesday, new books are coming out tomorrow, so sorry this is as late as it is, but I thought I would go ahead and finally get the show up for you. This is just the first chance I've gotten to finally sit down and do it, and finally got all my books read. Had a ton of books this week. We've got upwards of 17 books this week to review for you, so tons and tons of stuff, but there was quite a bit last week, and a couple of big major things that were coming out that were highly anticipated that we wanted to make sure that we went ahead and covered for you. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. And as always, we're going to start with number ones and good jumping on points. And Jayson, what are we starting with today?
Spider-Man 2099.
Spider-Man 2099. I have been waiting for this. This is by Peter David with art by Will Sliney. And this is a book that I have been anticipating for several years now. Spider-Man 2099 was showing up in video games, and I was like, when does he come back in Marvel? Finally started popping up in slot stuff, and I was really hoping that Peter David would get to come back and do a monthly, and indeed it's happening, and it does not disappoint. So the big question is, can you read this without knowing anything about 2099? And it's not a resounding yes, but I'm going to say yes. I think that David does a pretty good job of right out the gate giving you a sense of what's going on here, why Miguel O'Hara is here, what his kind of sensibilities are like from the future versus how we think about things more in the present. And he does a really good job of kind of merging those two things. It's not just random generic guy from far in the future hanging out here in present day and like an alien, stranger in a strange land, that kind of thing. He really does a good job of mixing these two things together. The 2099, the actual period and the culture and the lore and stuff is not missing in this book, and the story here is somebody from the future is sent back in time to kill Miguel O'Hara, kind of a mercenary, kind of bounty hunter guy, because the government in the future has realized that horrible things get changed, or something gets changed. It's somewhat mysterious about it because of his being in the present day, and so this mercenary gets sent back and has to kill him, or has to try to kill him anyway, and it's kind of Peter David does some kind of fun comedy with that, where it's kind of a no hard feelings kind of thing, and he gets some comedy mileage out of that. So I like that the future of 2099 is not missing in this book. Now I don't know how long that's going to go on. We can't have somebody from the future come back to kill Miguel O'Hara in every issue, so who knows what it's going to feel like as it goes along. But there are a whole lot of really great Easter eggs and nods to things, and mentions if you know your 2099, but I think he does a pretty good job of getting you into all of that if you're not already familiar with it. Things like Miguel in this, trying not to change the future too much, calls himself Mike instead, and that's kind of a callback to the fact that he hated being called Mike in 2099. So anyway, really good stuff, and especially good if you read Slot. I think you'd be right at home. If you read the Superior, I think you'd be right at home here. Next up, Jayson, what do we got?
Star Trek the Q Gambit.
Yeah, so this is Star Trek number 35, the first of a 6-part long arc called the Q Gambit, where Q comes into the alternate... Yeah, sure. Where Q comes into the alternate universe of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, and I like that this series makes it just a straight-up alternate universe. I really wish that the movies would come out and do that, because it makes a lot of things just work better and make a lot more sense if Ambassador Spock went to this other universe when he went back in time, and if we weren't trying to pretend like it really is the Prime universe just being paved over, because so much stuff is just different inherently that couldn't have been changed by Nero going back in time. But anyway, so the beginning of this is Q's talking to Picard, and apparently the Prime timeline keeps going past the destruction of Romulus, and he's like, hey, when Spock went back in time, he went to this other universe. I'm gonna go over there and mess with Chris Pinekirk. And Picard's like, no, don't do that. But of course, Q's gonna do what he wants to, so he goes over there. And the whole notion of this is Q trying to prove to Kirk that there is such a thing as the no-win scenario, which is fantastic because it's classic Kirk stuff, Kirk having to deal with his own mortality, but also it's classic Q. He's dealing with Kirk in the same way that he dealt with Picard and Q-Who in showing him, human hubris. You are not as ready for being out here as you think you are. You need to be more prepared, and this idea that you're going to win just because you think there always is a way doesn't win the day at the end of it. I love that we're getting 6 issues of this. I thought this first issue was really fantastic, both in story and in art. Fantastic voice for Q. I had Delancey's voice in my head the entire way through, but also the artwork. Everybody is really expressive. I felt like I was looking at actors giving me a performance, but also it's not too photorealistic all at the same time. I love uses of color here. I love all of the varied panel layouts. This is treating itself like a big deal, and it really feels like a big deal, and I love that a lot. It's really quite good. I don't know if there's going to be enough story for a whole 6 issues in this. With the ending of this, there's a really cool reveal at the end of this that I was excited for. I turned the page, thought I knew what it was going to be, turned out to be something totally different, really cool. But I hope it's not, because there is a huge novel kind of element to this, of course, and so I hope that it's not just Q takes Chris Pinekirk to all of these places that we're familiar with and it's just a big crossover thing. I hope that there's actually some story here, but with the first issue, it sure seems like it. Alright, jumping over to some Marvel #1s. What do we have first, Jason?
Original Sin. Thor and Loki, the 10th realm.
Yeah, good job. So this is Thor and Loki, the 10th realm, #1. This is one of the Original Sin tie-ins. And Original Sin is really interesting in the way it's doing its tie-ins, because I used to make fun of these events a lot, where Marvel would say things like, this is going to change the face of the Marvel Universe. And now we're to an event that not only seems to actually kind of matter, and the story certainly stands alone fine in the miniseries, but the tie-ins are actually changing stuff right now. Like, we don't even have to get to the end of Original Sin before suddenly we're getting these huge developments that we didn't know about. Yes, a lot of retroactive origin stuff, but some of it seems to actually make sense and kind of work. Last week, or a couple weeks ago, I think, I talked about, maybe it was last week, Hulk vs. Iron Man, where we find out that Tony Stark had something to do with Bruce Banner becoming the Hulk. Here, we're finally learning stuff about Angela, and this is important stuff. This is major. Again, when you're reading it, are you gonna really buy that there's all this stuff that we never knew about, that Thor somehow never figured out? I don't know, but it's interesting, and I'm going to reserve judgment until I see how it all pans out and how it's played. And retroactive origin is nothing new for comic book stuff, because the more years it goes, the more we want to continue adding to it and developing it and making it interesting, and not just telling the same stories over and over again. So this is sometimes a necessary evil. If it's done well, awesome. Anyway, so this cover kind of says it all and kind of gives away more than I wish it would. So Thor and Loki, the 10th realm. Thor finds out through what happened in Original Sin, when he gets his big flash of truth, that there is a 10th realm. And, well, he actually finds something else out, and this is a thing he finds out through talking to his mother. But anyway, I don't want to give away everything. He finds out that there's this other realm. There aren't just 9, there was a 10th realm. I have a really hard time buying that he never found this out, that this is such a giant secret that somehow he never found that out. That's crazy. And Angela has something to do with that realm, and has something to do with Thor, and I won't go any farther than that, but I'm glad that we are finally learning something about Angela, that stuff is being done with her in a mini-series tie-in to Original Sin. So, if you care anything about Angela from reading Guardians, and you've been curious about her, and you've been hoping that Bendis would finally do something with her, you will want to read that. If you're big into Thor, huge developments here for Thor, so you're going to want to read it for that. I'm surprised to say that this is very important. The only complaint I really have about the issue itself is that it does feel a little bit padded. Like there's kind of a double beat where at the beginning it reveals something that makes things pretty clear, and you can read between the lines, you know what's going on. You get to the end, and it kind of reveals it a second time, like it's new somehow. So I don't know. That's really my only complaint. I feel like what we learn in this is more interesting than the way it's actually revealed and handled. But nevertheless, I am recommending this, and it is a fine thing to read all on its own, starting from here forward. Next up, we've got, you want to keep looking at it?
Yeah.
What do we got next, Jason?
Legendary Star-Lord.
Legendary Star-Lord #1. This came out last week, and I missed it somehow, so I didn't review it along with Rocket Raccoon. This is decidedly very different from Rocket Raccoon. It's not the same sort of thing. It's not as kooky and silly and zany as that book. It's a little bit more serious. Certainly, you know, as over-the-top as Guardians always is. Star-Lord in this is dealing with the fact that he's kind of a child of two worlds. He's dealing with the Spartax thing and the Earth thing, and trying to decide who exactly he is. And reading this, I find myself trying to figure out who exactly he is. Is he a roguish character? Is he a hero? Is he an anti-hero? What are his motivations when he does help people? Is he the kind of character that just helps folks when it's convenient for him, or will he actually go out of his way to save someone? And all of those kinds of things are interesting to see playing out in this book. I think the art is really good. It's pretty consistent with what Bendis was doing over in Guardians, and or at least what that book looks like. This is I don't know. I feel like with both this and Rocket Raccoon, that so far, at least just one issue in, these are stories that could have been told in Guardians. I kind of wish that book was more, okay, it's an ensemble cast, each story arc will kind of focus more on a different Guardian, and what we're getting now are kind of those stories that I kind of wish had been told there. So I think we're just kind of padding stuff out because we've got a Guardians movie coming. So it's like, okay, well, if we're going to tell a story about Star-Lord, we got to give him his own book. And I'm not in love with that, really. I would be more so if I had been digging more of what Guardians I had been doing up until the most recent story arc, because I am liking that quite a bit. But before that, it was so much constantly tied into events and things that I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, this is what this book should have been, or at least what Guardians should have been. But anyway, definitely recommending Star-Lord, especially if you really want to get your Guardians fixed because you're excited for the movie and stuff. Quite good. And now, going over to DC, what do we got, Jason?
Grayson.
Grayson #1. Do you know who Grayson is?
No.
That's Nightwing. Yeah. So Dick Grayson was believed to have been killed during Forever Evil, and now he is kind of off on his own and being a super spy. And so this is a super spy book. This has a very kind of 007 sort of feel. It opens with your traditional train chase, because you gotta have a big fight on a train if you're doing spy stuff. A lot of Skyfall kinds of stuff in this, Jason, and one of Jesus' favorite things is Skyfall. And so it does not feel like Nightwing. It doesn't feel so much like a superhero book, but it has everything to do with the superhero world. And what I really like about it is that it's about superheroes and identities and what you do when you can't have a secret identity. And I was really surprised that it's actually about all that stuff. I was sort of, a few pages in, I was sort of like, this seems like just sort of a spy book with Dick Grayson's name on it in order to sell it. It felt a little generic, and I wasn't really digging it. It wasn't my bag until the last page. and I read the last page, and suddenly I liked the whole thing a lot more. I am actually recommending this. I'm surprised. I actually really quite like this. His working with Helena Bertinelli is a little bit strange. I'm not sure why she's being an undercover super spy right now, but you know, given that she is in costume in other books and things, and for a minute there I wasn't sure if she was actually the Earth 2 Huntress or if there was some other Huntress from 52. That whole thing I've always thought is really kind of weird, but whatever. But I think it is supposed to still be the Earth 2 Huntress. So anyway, yeah, I really like this. It's not really like my thing, I don't think, but then I got to the end of it and I was really kind of glad that I read it. So yeah, I'm recommending this, actually. And then jumping over to Image for number ones. What do we have, Jayson?
Spread.
Yeah, here is Spread number one. This is by Justin Jordan and Kyle Strom and Philippe Sobrero. This is another post-apocalyptic kind of story. It's zombies repackaged again. It felt a little generic out the gate, and then it started to win me over a little bit as I went along. I think this could turn into something really unique and original, but I think it feels kind of safe initially, and it took me a little bit to really get with it because it just seems like this is what we're doing right now. We're telling so many of these these kind of like really depressing, futuristic, kind of cynical stories. And anyway, this one, instead of just straight up regular zombies, we have this giant catch-all monster creature who's this big collective where it's like this scary, hideous looking creature. And what it does is it keeps growing and growing as it kills people and then feeds on them. And I think it just assimilates people into itself, and it keeps growing. It's again, it seemed a little generic, but then there's this character named No, who is named that because he's very little spoken. He doesn't say very much. I liked the detail of he doesn't like to talk even when there's much to say, and he says no all the time. That's almost the only thing he ever says. He's very decisive and sure of himself and no nonsense and stolid. And I very quickly got a sense of who this guy was after only a couple of panels with him, and I would read this book for that guy. So it's somewhat of a lukewarm recommendation for me, but I think 3-4 issues into this could turn into something really special. All right, we've got one more number one left. And what is it, Jayson?
Deadpool Dracula's Gauntlet.
That's right, Dracula's Gauntlet. This is by Brian Posehn and Gary Dugan. They are sharing story duties. I would assume Posehn probably plotted this and Dugan wrote the dialogue, but I'm not sure. Oh no, it does say written by Gary Dugan, so that's probably exactly what happened. And art by Riley Brown. So this is kind of what it sounds like. It is Dracula and Deadpool, but I figured that it would be like Dracula versus Deadpool. Maybe it will end up becoming that, but here it's actually Dracula hires Deadpool to do a mercenary job, which is kind of funny. At first he tries to just brainwash Deadpool the way Dracula does. He tries to mind control him, but mind control doesn't work on him, so he ends up having to hire him, which is really funny. And there's a lot of fun contrast of their powers and things like that. There's a lot of great parody stuff in this, as you usually expect from Deadpool. There's a whole like 3 pages of like a parody of a Bond intro. It reminded me a lot of what Weird Al did with Spy Hard, which is kind of amusing too, given that Leslie Nielsen did Spy Hard and also did Dracula Dead and Loving It, which is the only thing that I can, that's the only connection that I can even begin to make of why there would be like this spy kind of intro in opening up this Dracula thing. Maybe that's what he was thinking. I don't know. Anyway, but it's really funny. You got like floating silhouettes of chimichangas in water and stuff, and yeah, it's quite clever. So anyway, it seems like we're getting a lot of new Deadpool minis and stuff right now. It seems like we're kind of back to the days of Deadpool is everywhere, but luckily a lot of the Deadpool stuff right now is actually quite good, so I'm having a hard time minding, and you know, I'm reviewing number ones just in case people want to know what they are. I don't know if I'll stay on this, but it's funny, and you know, it's kind of just light, silly Deadpool stuff. Alright, so moving on to DC now, we've got Batgirl, number 33. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't let you do your job.
Batgirl Batgirl, the new 50.
Okay, Batgirl, number 33. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. We're still kind of in the middle of another Nightfall story with Batgirl trying to go up and stop Nightfall, and she has teamed up with Huntress and Black Canary for the very first time ever. Yeah, I still can't get my mind around that. I still don't understand how in the world all of Batman continuity happened within a period of 5 years before present day 52, and yet you've got these characters that are meeting for the first time. Did No Man's Land happen even like the same way? I have the same thing with that I do with Death of Superman right now, because I'm like, how is this the first time they're meeting Huntress? Huntress was a major player in No Man's Land. You got stuff like that where it just kind of drives me crazy. Anyway, it is kind of fun to read this as sort of like the first meeting of the original Birds of Prey, or at least the kind of mainstays of Birds of Prey. And I haven't read the Birds of Prey book at all in 52. I wonder what that's like. I wonder what it's like to read a 52 Birds of Prey book where nobody's ever met Huntress before. That's really weird in my brain. So anyway, you have them trying to find a way to work together, and Batgirl is really kind of coming to her wit's end here and having a hard time keeping her composure, and she's starting to act a little bit more like the Batgirl and Batman Eternal. I'm suspicious of it because this is crossing over a lot with Eternal, and it makes me wonder if Gail Simone doesn't feel like she has to start writing Batgirl as more angry and more hot-headed, because that's the way they're writing it over in Eternal. So for a minute, she kind of goes crazy, and there's this huge giant spread of her punching out. It's kind of violent of her punching out Huntress for a minute, and then of course they kind of figure out a way to work together, and they're going up against Nightfall, and Nightfall has this kind of standard I know what's right for the city kind of bad guy plot. And I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about it. Nightfall's not a character I've been able to make myself get into, and I haven't read the entirety of her introduction story, so maybe I would like this more if I read that. Still am having a hard time sinking my teeth into that character. This is certainly not a great place to jump on unless you're just really curious about that meeting with those three Birds of Prey characters. Next up, what do we have, Jayson?
Batman Eternal, the new 52.
Okay, so Batman Eternal number 14. I don't know. I don't know. I'm still kind of back and forth on this book. I really enjoyed the last two issues quite a bit, and then there's some things here that could be missteps, or I could just like them better as it goes along. I don't like Gordon's defeatist attitude. I guess it's just a taste thing. I'm having a really hard time buying Gordon in this whole place of, yeah, I accidentally killed those people, and maybe I had all this coming to me anyway. I mean, like, I can totally appreciate and understand an attitude of, I'm questioning myself, I'm conflicted, that kind of thing, but just this whole kind of, nah, it's fine, just put me out of pasture, I'm done. I don't know, I'm having a really hard time sympathizing with Gordon in this story, and he's just not, I don't know, he's not my Gordon. I'm having a really tough time with that. Anyway, then, they take, I don't want to give things away, I guess, most people probably read this by now, but they take Jason Bard in kind of a twisty direction, and where he's a lot more morally ambiguous than we thought he was. It seemed like he was sort of taking over for Gordon, and he was going to be sort of our rock, our Gordon character. And I really thought where this was going was he was going to prove by acting like Gordon, by having faith in the system to bring Gotham back, that that Gordon was right in the first place, and that he shouldn't doubt himself. And it looks like where it might be going is the opposite, where it's like, well, we need Gordon because he's really the only true, honest to God, like real, incorruptible cop with good leadership skills. So again, we'll see where it goes. This is really going in some often left field directions that I was not expecting. And then at the end, character is brought in. Oh, I don't mind revealing it. It's Joker's daughter, and I don't like her, and I don't want to have to deal with her. So anyway, was not super excited about this. Obviously, goes without saying, but you really probably shouldn't just jump in this anywhere. You should probably either wait for trade or go back and grab the rest of this if you are interested at all. Okay, moving right along, a little bit more DC stuff. What do we have here, Jason?
Superman versus Wonder Woman.
Well, it's not versus Wonder Woman, because they're dating. Jason, Superman and Wonder Woman are together in this. But anyway, so Superman Wonder Woman number 10. Yes.
Is Batman in that comic?
Well, actually, Batman's not in this comic, but, at least I don't think he shows up anywhere in this, but, there's a lot of these, 75th anniversary Batman covers that are coming out right now, so this is a variant cover. Once again, I'm gonna make the same complaint I did the last time I saw one of these variants. It doesn't have the banner for Doomed, and that's a problem if folks don't realize that this is part of that story arc, and if they want the story arc, they need to get that. I feel like even with variant covers, you can still put that on there. Maybe it's a moot point. Maybe we just don't do that with variants. I guess I kind of wish we did, at least somewhere, like small or something. Whatever, it's not that big of a deal. So, Superman Doomed continues to be completely ridiculous and preposterous. It's still not... I don't think it is technically good. I am still sort of enjoying it. Basically, we're finding ways in this to use all of the major players from Death of Superman and kind of repackage that whole thing. This is for people like me that love Death of Superman, are nostalgic for that, can't get enough of it, and want it to continue showing back up and permeating and stuff. And that's not to say that I want to see this continually rehashed, and yet, if something comes out, I can't help but buy it. So, if that's a problem, I'm part of that problem. But, now we found a way to bring in Cyborg Superman, who it still perplexes me that he is called that and looks like that, and I have no idea why Brainiac chose to make him look like a cyborg Superman, except that that's a character that existed before, and that people like me know him and will buy things with him in it, and he has nothing to do with Hank Henshaw, and if Death of Superman didn't happen the same way, which it couldn't possibly have, he would have, Brainiac would have designed that himself. Anyway, I don't know. So, this is starting to, I don't want to use the word degenerate, but it's starting to turn into a Brainiac versus Superman story, and it's kind of been here, done that kind of thing, but it's like if we're going to bring in Cyborg Superman, we have to bring in Brainiac because he works for Brainiac now. If you've read any of the Supergirl stuff and you read the Brainiac and the Cyborg Superman one-shot. Anyway, so that's what's going on. Brainiac has taken over Lois Lane, weirdly, and so now we have this kind of parallel thing going on with Doomsday taking over Superman, and Superman trying to get his, re-exert his personality and take his own body over. And now the same thing is going on with Lois Lane. I guess that's kind of interesting, and she and Wonder Woman have kind of a showdown here, and Wonder Woman is trying to kind of bring her back and stuff. Again, not a good place to jump on. You really should read at least the beginning of this part of the Doomed event. It's weird, it's strange. My verdict's still out on it until it's over, but so far it seems kind of just repackaged Death of Superman stuff with a couple of interesting twists here and there, I suppose. Alright, what else, Jason?
Tiny Titans return to the Treehouse.
Yeah, number 2 of the 6-part Tiny Titans miniseries, which I just wish they would just bring Tiny Titans back monthly. But yeah, not a lot to say here. This is still really hilarious. The Tiny Titans continue, as I'm assuming they will, for the entire 6-issue miniseries, trying to find a new way to get a treehouse, because Brainiac has stolen their treehouse and turned it into, and put it in a bottle. There's a lot of really funny stuff with Bizarros in this, different kinds of Bizarros. There's some really fun stuff with Blue Beetle and his backpack, and what Superman at the end of this comes up with a new treehouse, but they're not able to use it because of what it is, and it's gonna fall apart really fast. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, it's very funny. It's quite hilarious. Moving right along. Let's go on to Marvel stuff now. Jason.
Daredevil.
Okay, Daredevil number 5. Finally, the mystery of how Foggy Nelson's death was faked. We got some nonlinear storytelling here. This is a story that could have been told at the beginning of this, and I'm not going to cry foul on it because I actually kind of feel like it makes a lot of sense to get it where we get it. Knowing it, I think it's good and dramatic and not too much in a gimmicky way, where first we see the urn, and then we know pretty quickly that Foggy Nelson is still alive, so there's a big mystery about that, and now we have really good explanations for why, or at least fairly good explanations for why Foggy Nelson had to fake his death in the first place, and why this happened. So, basically the idea is that now that Matt has been outed as Daredevil officially, he's afraid for Foggy Nelson's life. And so he decides that Foggy needs to find a way to fake his own death, and that he's going to do it through the cancer. And ultimately, they find a way for him to have the big hero's death that he would much prefer to have, and that's how people would remember him. And he's kind of bitter toward Matt because he doesn't get to live that kind of lifestyle, and so he just goes out with kind of a fizzle with this tragic cancer thing, and wishes that he could go out the way he knows Daredevil will eventually someday go out. I think this is a really good study of their relationship, and of both the good and the bad and the complexities of that relationship. And overall, I really enjoyed this. This is a really good one-and-done story, so even if you haven't been reading Daredevil, this is a pretty easy one to just pick up and read. Next up, Jason, what do we got?
The Amazing Spider-Man Learning to Crawl, number 5.
This is not number 5. Where'd you get 5? Where do you even see a 5 anywhere on this cover? This is not number 5. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 1.3, the Learning to Crawl story arc. This is by Slott with art by Perez. I'm still really enjoying this. This is really cool. More and more, Slott is bringing modern-day technology into this and still making it look like the 60s, which is a really strange juxtaposition, but I'm kind of enjoying it. At first, I was kind of liking just leaving it very ambiguous and not doing a lot of stuff with technology, but then, given what the story is, it's really hard not to bring the internet and things into it, I suppose. Otherwise, it would have just been newspapers and things, and then it basically would have just been, this is the 60s, and it would be hard to make me buy, I guess, this being part of present-day Spider-Man. So I can totally see the difficulties and the limitations with dealing with time periods and stuff, and if he wants to do this style, I guess it does kind of make sense, even though, again, the juxtaposition is weird, to have the characters kind of talking in this more kind of innocent vernacular, like it's the 60s, but then with all of our present-day technology. So what we have going on here is it's Peter versus this new character that he fought last issue when it was Spider-Man versus this new sound guy, and that looks a lot like Spider-Man. And he's now fighting, or not fighting him, but it's now him versus this other kid in a science fair. And so basically you have kind of, this kid is kind of the anti-Spider-Man, and they both go to the same school, and they're both science whizzes, and they both sort of want the same things but don't, which is kind of interesting. Peter Parker is not really after fame and fortune right now. He's just trying to find a way to survive and keep Aunt May afloat financially, whereas this kid is really selfish, all about the fame and the fortune and the glory, and that's because he hasn't experienced the kind of thing that Peter did with Uncle Ben's death, and so he hasn't learned that responsibility lesson yet, and yet Peter Parker still hasn't fully gotten it figured out, and they have a lot more in common than not. So I really enjoyed the parallels and the contrast between those two characters. This is still really great, and
DC.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Daredevil is in DC.
Oh, that's not Daredevil. That is Deadman. Careful. But yeah, that's not Daredevil. That's Deadman. Deadman. Anyway, so still recommending this. We're only 3 issues in, and this is close to done. So you know, read the first 2 issues. But yeah, do yourself a favor and read these if you like classic Spider-Man stories. Also, still really good stuff for kids, and I'm impressed with that. Next up, what do we have, Jason?
Spider-Man.
So this is one of the Marvel 100th anniversary things, and I didn't read the first one, but these are kind of all one-and-dones, sort of. This is really strange. This whole concept is bizarre to me. I have huge reservations about this whole idea, but whatever. I mean, you know, Marvel can do whatever they want to. This is not affecting anything, but it's a really strange idea. Basically, the idea with these, if you don't know, is let's go a few decades in the future and pretend like it's Marvel's 100th anniversary and do the final story arc in the final issue in major story arcs, and like try to guess where characters might be at this particular place several decades from now, and that's the idea with this. I don't know why we're doing that. When we actually get to Marvel's 100th anniversary, you know, when I'm in a wheelchair, we're gonna come back and look at this and be like, that's weird. Why did we do that? So anyway, this is like part 8 of 8. I actually had to ask somebody about this because I was like, where are the other 7 parts? No, it's they don't exist. We're just pretending like they do. This is called Great Power. It's part 8 of 8. It's actually a one-shot, and it's Kingpin as Venom, which is the reason I bought it, because I just thought that was really interesting and I had to see what it looked like. By the way, this is by Sean Ryan with art by In-Hyuk Lee. I really like the art in this. It's I don't know, it's kind of photorealistic and just a lot of really good atmosphere. But anyway, so basically this is just a big giant action piece, and it feels like a 5-minute wrap up of a story I didn't read. That's what it feels like. It's like, okay, so we've got this really dramatic situation, and we've got one more issue to finish it out on. Let's finish it real fast. Okay, but I just got here, and the other 7 don't even exist. So I don't know. This whole thing is weird to me.
Why is there a Superman duck?
Jayson, why is there what?
Superman duck?
Yeah, you're right. Superman ducks are weird. Anyway, can I review this?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, cool, thanks. Anyway, so basically the idea here is it's Eddie and Peter Parker, it's Eddie Brock and Peter Parker versus the Kingpin, and Kingpin at the beginning of this kills Eddie Brock, and then Peter Parker has to stop him, and then they get in a big giant fight, and then he stops him in the end. That's basically this issue. There are a couple of interesting ideas setting it up, but then it doesn't really explore anything because it's just a big giant fight to finish out an arc that didn't exist. Really strange. Alright, what else we got? This is our last Marvel book for this week.
New X-Men.
All New X-Men number 29. This is, of course, by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Stuart Immonen. Really major revelations about the future X-Men in this that I don't want to give away. I'm not going to really say anything about this except that I feel like I'm in the middle of a weird temporal causality loop. I don't know how in the world this doesn't just keep happening over and over and over again with regards to the future X-Men. Like, they keep giving notes to themselves so that whenever things don't work out, they can just go back and try again without any knowledge of what happened before. Like, we've already done this once. We've already experienced this one time, and now it looks like it's going to happen again. Anyway, I got a feeling that this future Xavier is going to continue to be a huge major force in this, and ultimately probably be the giant big bad at the end of this entire thing. I sure hope so, because Bendis is using a lot of real estate on them right now. And then at the end, Angel on a motorcycle. Anyway, okay, so now we go to my only other, oh, thanks. Now we go on to my only other non-Big 2 book this week before we get to our other categories at the end. And what do we got, Jayson?
Spawn.
Okay, Spawn, number 245. Look, it's clown on the cover. As we are becoming more and more accustomed to with this, I shouldn't even say that. This has been the case for a long time. Clown's not in this issue. He's on the cover, but he's not in this issue. I guess we just can't expect that what we see on the cover is going to have anything to do with the book. But that's okay, because I wouldn't recommend anybody reading this... Okay, now I'm going to finish that sentence. I wouldn't recommend anybody reading this without reading anything that came before. And, man, McFarlane is just not getting anything done in a single issue. He's got 2 pages worth of story in this, and he's stretched it out to 22 pages. He is trying like the Dickens to do character stuff with Jim Downing. And he's just not a character guy, and I really appreciate him attempting it and trying to do some good relationship stuff, but man, the dialogue is really clunky, it's really unnatural, nobody has their own voice, they all sound the same, everybody puts sentences together in really bizarre orders of words. It reads like somebody going through a first semester creative writing course at college, and it's really disheartening to read that and to see that Todd McFarlane hasn't gotten any better as a writer. Now, that's not fair. He's gotten better in that he's starting to try to focus on the stuff that people actually care about in reading stuff. Some of his ideas are better. Some of, I don't know, it's not as melodramatic as it used to be. His word choice is sometimes better, but then here a lot of it is just not good. So anyway, that's my big complaint about this. So it's Jim Downing trying to get his life back together, and he's trying to make up with Sarah and trying to actually start a relationship with her. He's trying to make up with his best friend and all that kind of stuff. And there is a good revelation here, or not revelation, but there is a good development here with that relationship. And so I like that. But like I said, you know, it's 2 pages of story stretched out into 22 pages. Still not recommending Spawn. I feel like the whole last 45 issues could have been condensed into a single story arc. Not kidding. And that's, I don't know, it's just how I feel about it right now. Anyway, so all right, next up, so it's our blind grab, and this wasn't really that blind. Super Enthusiast had been reviewing Detective and said that it was really fantastic, so I thought, well, why not? I'll try Detective this week. So here's Detective number 33. I don't have a lot. Oh, I'm sorry. What is it, Jason?
Batman Detective Comics.
That's right. All right, so Detective number 33. I don't have a lot to say about this because jumping in the middle of this, I was completely lost. I have no idea what's going on in this. So I'm just going to very broadly and superficially say that I really like that this is a detective book, a straight up through and through detective book. I really like the atmosphere. I really like the grittiness of it. This is very timeless Batman. Could have been written and drawn at any time period. I really like that kind of stuff. The developments going on with him and Bullock at the end of this were I think, what really grabbed me. As far as the actual story, like I said, I was kind of jumping right in the middle of it, so I didn't really know what I was looking at. But it's not Batman versus a big supervillain. It's Batman versus kind of street thugs and stuff. And I just, like I said, I really like the grittiness of it. So I'm not recommending this to jump right into, because I wish I hadn't, but I would recommend maybe going back to wherever the story arc begins, because I really liked the feel of this one. Now it's time for the Jayson pick. Jayson, what did you pick this week?
Transformers More Than Meets the Eye.
Alright, so Jayson wanted me to read Transformers number 31, and I gotta say, I was incredibly surprised by this issue. Now, I have read, I think, I'll let you look at it in a minute, I need it for reference for a second here, but yeah, this is, by the way, let me get some credits on this. This is written by James Roberts with art by Attilio Rojo. By the way, I really like that IDW always puts the credits right in the front, right in the front cover, like Image does. Why can't we do that? Can we keep doing that? That'd be great. Anyway, so I've read, I think, like one Transformers comic that passed and was surprised by how much I liked it. This was really, really good, and I don't know. I think the way I would have to describe this is cerebral? Really? I mean, like this is so much more cerebral than I would expect. Now, certainly, this is a book you could give a kid, but there's so many words on a page, and it's really an intellectual exercise, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but this thing has social commentary about everything. It talks about politics, and it talks about religion, and it talks about philosophy, and there's kind of existential stuff going on here. There's kind of social issues dealing with whether or not the Autobots should have to tell anyone how they were created and things like that, because they don't want to be segregated. All of these different issues done in a really kind of light, tongue-in-cheek way. There's stuff in this that really resonated with me about education and about like whether or not college should be an institution that like a money-making institution and things like that. But then also just on a basic plot level, really really interesting stuff going on here. Right now, Megatron is an Autobot, or at least masquerading as an Autobot, and he keeps proving to the Autobots that he's on their side. That's really interesting, and I almost want to keep reading just to find out where that goes. The story in this is a bunch of these Autobots start disappearing, which, by the way, was good news for me, because the one complaint I have about this, and I always have this with Transformers, is there's so many characters I can't keep up with who they all are. So once they started disappearing, I went, yes, less to keep up with. But anyway, so they keep disappearing. We got to figure out why. They're trying to figure out patterns, and that's why they're dealing with the whole should Autobots have to tell you how they were created, because there's different categories of that, and they're trying to narrow down which ones are being disappeared and why. Anyway, I actually really recommend this, and even though it's right in the middle of an arc, I found this pretty easy to read, just all by its lonesome. Wow. Really, really good. Finally, my back issue for the week, I thought I would do a Star Trek comic, so I read Star Trek The Next Generation, number 39. What does that say?
Descent into the unknown.
The unknown. The K is silent. So, not paying any attention to the date, I figured it's got the word descent on it. It probably has something to do with
Star Trek.
I figured it has the word descent in it. Probably has something to do with either lore or the Borg. Well, this was written in 1992, so descent hadn't aired yet. So kind of an unfortunate word on the cover. No descent in this, really. But anyway, so I don't know. This was okay, I guess. Things don't start happening until the end of this. A lot of this is just sort of like here's maybe if I'd been reading the series in sequence, I would have cared more about the character stuff in this. But a lot of it is just like these kind of subplots of here's where Alexander Rishenko is right now, and here's where Rolaren is right now, and there's a couple places where there's just a kind of a silly scene, almost as if Michael Friedman, who by the way has written lots and lots of Star Trek novels, thinks that this is the way TNG was always plotted, where we just have like kind of a cute scene that has nothing to do with anything and then we move on. A lot of the teasers were like that, but usually we didn't do that in the middle of an episode. And there's a place in this where it's like we're playing billiards and Geordi needs somebody to take over for him because he's got to go to the bridge. So Deanna Troi takes over for him, and okay, who cares? Anyway, so there is this like man-made sphere thing. Reminds me of Enterprise. That the Enterprise goes and investigates, and then at the end it starts sending ships at them, and then we find out that it had something to do with the Grissom. And we have a character in this who used to serve on that ship, and so I don't know. It doesn't get interesting until the last couple pages, and then I kind of wished I had the next issue, but then I sort of wished it was all just, together, where, you started with that and then went on to the next story, because there's not much here. Anyway, so that is our show. Let's go ahead and go on now to Book of the Week and Cover of the Week. And I'm looking through stuff here. Wow, what was my favorite issue this week? I'm going to have to go, this is probably predictable, but I'm going to have to go with Spider-Man 2999 this week. I was really looking forward to this. It didn't disappoint. I was really, really excited that I had so much fun with it. And Cover of the Week, well, it certainly isn't this one just on principle. Cover of the week. Nothing just really jumping out at me this week. I'm gonna go with Q Gambit. I was really happy with the art in this, and I thought that the cover was kind of reminiscent of what's inside, but just Q holding people. That's a very Q kind of image. I really liked that. I did not, however, like the variant cover this week. That was a photo cover, and I'll explain why next time I review this book, because that would actually be giving away the ending, and I don't want to do that. So anyway, I want to say thanks as always to everybody for watching. Once again, if you're ever in the Kansas City area, check out Elite Comics in Overland Park. It's absolutely fantastic. Jayson, thanks for being on the show.
Oh, and I forgot to read Transformers.
Oh, well, we can look at Transformers right now after we finish.
Oh.
Can you tell everybody thanks for watching?
Thank you for watching.
Happy reading.